Welcome to the Mercedes-AMG A45S, a 415 brake horsepower hatchback. As you're probably aware, that sort of power, once again, makes the A45 the world's most powerful hot hatch. But in the pursuit of ultimate performance, has AMG made sacrifices in key areas such as usability, handling and engagement that make a fast hot hatch a truly great one?
So, the only place to start with the new A45 is the engine. Now, it's still a 2-litre unit like the old version, it's still a 4-cylinder, but the engine is completely new. There's not a bolt, not a nut that is shared with that old engine. And the reason for that is because the level of performance Mercedes engineers wanted to bring with the new A45 was so much greater than what they've done before. The engine had to be completely re-engineered. So from top to bottom, it's completely new, and what an engine. I mean, this thing, in its most powerful state of tune, in the A45S, which is the only version buyers will get in the UK, it puts out 415 brake horsepower and 500 Newton meters of torque, which obviously quite comfortably makes it the most powerful 4-cylinder engine there's ever been. Now, does anybody need 415 horsepower in a hot hatch? Probably not. But if you ask some of the engineers why they've decided to take such a leap with the new A45, their answer is pretty straightforward actually, because they can. They have the technology, they have the know-how, these guys know what they are doing. And because this latest generation of A-Class is based on a new set of chassis components, the car itself is a lot more sophisticated and able to take that greater jump in performance that the engineers have brought.
There's a whole host of new chassis tweaks as well. New frequency selective shock absorbers are designed to improve the ride. That's on top of the familiar adaptive damper setup. Larger brakes to help rein in the performance, and significant chassis reinforcement to help harness all of the engine's power.
Like before, the engine is mated to a dual clutch gearbox, an 8-speed dual clutch gearbox with paddles, and like before, it's still 4-wheel drive. If you have that much power, you need 4-wheel drive. But this system has been, again, like the engine, totally overhauled.
Up to 50% of the engine's power can be transferred to the rear wheels, and from there, a new twin-clutch rear axle means that power can then be sent to either the left or the right wheel, which Mercedes claims should increase agility.
What does all that sort of feel like on the road? Unbelievable. What an engine. Those numbers, 415 horsepower and 500 Newton meters, are big by any standards, but when you consider and realise that it's a 2-litre 4-cylinder motor, it's unbelievable. Now, when it comes to numbers, Mercedes says 0 to 62 will take 3.9 seconds. 3.9 seconds. That's faster than the Mercedes-AMG GT, their flagship performance car. And this is a £50,000 hot hatch. This 4-wheel drive system is so effective. It's so quick to react to, know exactly where to put the power. It feels like you can use all of this performance at any given opportunity. If you turn in, carry more speed than you think, it just grips.
There's always the sensation of the 4-matic setup constantly shuffling power to where it can be most effectively used, which means even at high speed, progress is composed and stable.
It feels a lot more agile and nimble than the previous model, and louder. I'm not sure if you can hear this on camera, but it sounds a lot better than the old one, and the engine itself is a lot more responsive. Peak torque and power doesn't come in till about 5,500 RPM. So it feels, you really have to actually rev this thing to get the best out of it. If there's a slight weak link in the whole setup, perhaps it's the steering. Because this drivetrain is so well polished, it's so good, the downsides do stand out, and the steering is, well, to me, one of them. It's a bit light. There's not a huge amount of feel there. You sort of have to rely on the fact that there's so much grip from the 4-wheel drive system. You have to sort of point and hope that it goes where you want it to. It always does. But it would be nice if there's a slight bit more feedback from the steering. The brakes, well, These are the biggest brakes ever fitted to an A-Class, and it's reassuring to know that because this thing carries so much speed.
There's no doubting the A45's ability as a performance car, but what about as a family hatchback? A particular weakness of the outgoing model.
If we settle it down a little bit, put it into comfort, and put it into automatic mode, what's it like here? Because the beauty of a hot hatch is its dual personality. It has to be savagely quick and entertaining, but it has to be usable. You know, it has to be able to do the school run, it has to be practical, it has to have a big boot, it has to be able to carry people, because these cars are designed to be used every day, and from here it does that a lot better than the old version. The ride is a lot more forgiving, even in its slightly more aggressive Sport and then Sport Plus setup. It feels a lot softer than the old version did. That was really firm and really quite uncomfortable at times, but it's really quite supple actually, considering the level of performance on offer. But when it comes to performance, you know, there's nothing that matches this car when it comes to 0 to 62, power, torque. But when you compare it to other hot hatches, when it comes to handling, you know, chassis tuning, engagement, the current benchmark for me is the Civic Type R. You know, that is the car at the very top of its class. Does the A45 match that when it comes to sheer entertainment value? And for me, it doesn't quite match that car. One of the reasons is the price. I mean, this thing is going to be a £50,000 hot hatch. By the time you've added some extras on, it's going to be a £55,000, even £60,000 car, which is a huge amount of money for a hot hatch. And when you consider the dynamic ability, the margins are so small between those cars. It's such a gulf in price that I'm not sure it's quite justified. But don't get me wrong, and I take nothing away from Mercedes, this A45 is a fantastic piece of engineering. It's blisteringly quick, easily usable every day, and a brilliant piece of engineering ultimately.